I bet you can't guess what today's little project is. Yep, we're going to do a little bit of netting. And here's some nets that I've made previously in the past, and they're simple purse nets, and they're very easy to make. But the only problem that I find is that when you watch videos on YouTube with regards to this subject, the problem is when you're actually looking at what they're doing, it's fairly difficult to see because, okay, that's a slightly thicker cord. Let's take this one out of the way. But you can see here, it uses a fairly thin, in fact very thin cord, and it would be difficult to show you this on an actual video itself. And so yeah, this is basically a purse net, and if I just fold it in half, you can see in this particular case there's a ring at each end there, goes from green to red to green again. You can do them all different colours just so that you recognise them again. And the idea of a purse net is that it's for hunting or getting rabbits, I believe. You cover the hole with the purse net, you stake it down through the rings, and there is also a drawstring on it which isn't attached on this one, and when rabbit pokes its head through here, he gets tangled up in the actual purse net itself. However, I'm not a fan of hunting. Some of you may be, but I'm personally not a fan of hunting. I like to think of these as nice little hammocks. If you've got some toys in a child's room, children love them. I know that for a fact. Children do love these because you can hang them from the wall and then you can throw their stuffed toys in there, and instantly when you look at them, because of all the holes in them, you can find your toys very, very easily. So kids do like them for storage. And I mean, you can probably think of other ways of using it for storage. You can even make net bags out of it, etc. But in today's exercise, I'm going to show you how to do it in Paracord. And the reason that we're going to do it in Paracord is it just makes it a little bit easier for you to follow that video in Paracord. Okay, so we're going to do it in Paracord. And as you can see, it's quite chunky in the knots. However, there is no reason why you can't make one in Paracord. You've just got to be a little bit more careful. Just tidy those knots up a little bit, because you can see here, you can't even see the knots on this one. And even if you look closely, you can't see if there's a little fault in it or an error. Whereas when it gets bigger, you can certainly see some faults or errors in that. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you how to make a paracord hammock, in a sense. And basically what the tools you'll require for that is one netting needle. Now here's a wooden one that I've got, but if I go to my bag here, I've got others loaded and unloaded with all different cords on and the different sizes. You see, there's a fairly thick one and there's a small one. So it depends on the size of hole that you want in your actual work. Depends on the size of the needle, because the other thing you will have is that when you're making your net, you can see here I've got a ring attached on one end, and so what you want to do is get yourself a seamless stainless steel ring, cheap as enough on eBay, etc. However, you don't necessarily need to use steel rings or anything. You can actually make rings out of cordage as well. Choice is yours, okay? But basically, you need to get a needle that will pass through the actual ring itself. So it's the ring that determines the size of the needle that you're going to pass through it. So in our case, because we've got a huge ring, I can use the biggest needle in the world, and that way I can show you as best I can on camera how to tie a purse net or a smallie hammock to put toys in, or even a big hammock for you to lay in. You know, all depends on what you want to make out of it. I'll just show you the simple netting process, and from that you'll be able to understand how the process works. So let's shut up talking, John, and let's get on and do some knotting. So I'll see you on the other side when we start knotting. Right, in order to make this visible, first of all, I am going to use Paracord. There's a lot of videos out there, and to be honest, they use the small twine and you sometimes really struggle to see what you're doing. And normally you would attach it to a ring like this, or you can make yourself a ring, just a small ring, tie a piece of paracord off and make a small ring out of paracord. But today, well, I am going to use this baby. Now this is a bull ring, and so instantly I come up to my first question, because there's one of my people, listen to me, I am like an emperor. Okay, one of the people watching this will have actually used this on a bull. And basically, there's a screw that comes undone there. This slides open, you'll see it later on when I do it, and then you snap it through the bull's nose. How on earth do you keep a bull still long enough to put that through his nose? Eh? I would be really complaining if I was a bull and that went through my nose. But anyway, that is a bull ring that I've got just for demonstration purposes today because of the size of it. And this is the paracord I'm going to use. I've got a whole length of paracord here. I don't think I'm going to use all of it in this demonstration. But the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to load up my netting needle. Now this is the biggest one I've got. And when you're using a netting needle, the thing is, the size of the needle is determined by the size of the hole that you're going through. So you can see, as on here, this needle is not going through that hole, but it is going through that hole. So this makes it a good needle to use. And this is a handmade needle. Somebody actually took the time to make this needle. It must have been around for years because it's as smooth as anything, yet it still has all the markings on it from when it was used for netting. Right, so to load a netting needle is so simple. Basically, what we do is we get the end of our cord here and just hold it with our thumb at that place. And then the next thing I do is wrap it around that inner needle there, bring it back down, around the end where you can see there's a cutout there, round the end there, turn it over, and then back up the other side and around up the other side and around that needle again up there, down to the bottom, turn it over and then back up. Don't worry about your scraggly end there sticking up, that will be all tucked in as we go through it. Round the needle again and back. And basically it is a very simple task just to load this needle. And when you're doing this, you want to load it depending on the size of the purse net, but I can guarantee a purse net uses a lot of cordage, so load up your needles to the maximum. I'm not going to put mine to the maximum because I want to show you later on how to tie it off and start it afresh. So I'm going to now load a little bit more on my needle, and then I'll come back once I've got it all set up for you. I have tied my paracord on with my slip knot, and there's the end of my needle, and as you can see it just goes onto my needle like so. Now the next thing I'm going to do is just have a look at the instructions, because we're going to go from the instructions that I told you about earlier, which came from Bridport Nets. And the instructions say fill a needle with twine, which we've done, join twine onto ring, and then it says make 15 meshes, loops, onto the ring of equal length by putting a full needle around finger to form a loop up through the ring and tie off with 2 half hitches. Easy enough, okay? And these, like I said, I will put a link in the description below this video where you can actually get the instructions for this net itself. So I've made this net before, and so where it says on the instructions do a loop around your thumb, I figure that when I was doing it, round my thumb only creates, as you can see there, a smallish loop. But I know for a fact our actual mesh wants to be a bit bigger. So I'll form bigger loops to start with at the beginning. It's just something I like to do with it. So let's get on and form our first loop. So the instructions basically said go underneath, form a loop like so, and then tie off with 2 half hitches. So basically, as you can see, I have gone underneath my ring there, up round the top, and so I've got a loop here coming off from my ring. And the next thing I'm going to do is go underneath that loop that we've just created and pass my needle through it. And also, had I tried to make it the size of my thumb, you can see my needle wouldn't have fitted anyway in this particular case. And so there we go. What I've done now is I have gone underneath that first loop that I've created, and I've created a second loop here, and all I'm going to do now is go back through that second loop I've created with my needle like so, and then pull that up and just gently adjust it so you get that first loop. So this first loop, you want it the size of your liking. So I'm just going to pull it up a little bit, pull it up tight, and then what we do is we do exactly the same again just to lock it off. So I go up through that loop, and then behind it, whoa, need a bit more off my needle there, and behind it here we've created another loop, and back through with your needle through that second loop you created, and then pull it up nice and tight, and there we have it. We've got our first loop locked into place there. And so basically what we've got to do, now normally when you're making a purse net, according to the instructions, we need to do 15 of these loops, okay? But I'm not going to do 15 for demonstration purposes, but what I will do is I will do a few more so you can see exactly what's happening, okay? So once again, now that we're going to make our second loop, so what we do is we take our needle, we go up through our ring like so. So we've gone up through our ring, and then what we do is just pull it up so that we end up with another loop the same size as the previous one. You see there, they're side by side there, approximately the same size. And the next thing I do is I go up underneath that loop we've just created, and behind it we've created another loop. And all I do is turn the needle round and go back through that loop just to lock it off. And what I'm going to do is just gently lock it off. Okay, and the other thing I found as well is I found it easier with the actual netting cord than actually using paracord. Paracord I find is just not as good at making this. Okay, and so I've done my first one, locking knot there. So up through the eye again, which creates an eye in its wake. Ooh, very nautical term then. Back through that eye to the right that we just created and lock it off. And there we go. We've now locked our second loop off. So what I'll do is I will show you for a third time. And so basically what we do, get our netting needle up through the middle of our ring so that we form a loop. We want to then just adjust that loop to the same size as the previous loops. Get a bit more cordage off my needle, that's it. And now that loop that we've got the same size as the previous two, we go up through it with the netting needle like so. Behind it we've now formed a loop, turn it over and go through that loop again, and there we go. We've just lock that one off, and just make sure it's the same size. Bring it up to the same size. There we go, same size again. Pull it nice and tight, and then what we do is, just to lock it off completely, is back through that loop. There's a loop in its wake behind it. Go down through that loop we've just created, and there we go. We've just locked another one off. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around now and I will do a few more, and then I will come back to you, because you don't want to see me repeating this all the time. I will come back to you and we'll go on to the next stage of making our net. So here I am again. I have now done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do one more and we'll call that a day on the end there. So we go, once again, we go up through the ring itself to form a loop at the bottom there. Just put your finger there to hold that loop in place. I'm just taking a bit more off my netting needle there, and then we go up through the loop that we've just created, and once again in its wake, just behind it, we've created a loop there. What we do is pass the needle back down through to lock it off for the first time. Hold your finger there to keep that loop to the size that you want, and as at the moment It's slightly over, so just adjust it a bit and then pull up nice and tight on that knot. And there you go, that's locked in place. But to lock it in even more securely, we go back up through the loop again, round, through the loop that we've just created, and then that will finally lock that one off. And there we go. We've now locked that one off, and you can see here now that we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops. Okay? The other thing as well is this, that when it comes to net making, just be aware that I am only doing what the instructions here tell me. I've done a little bit of research on net making, and let me tell you, there are so many different ways of tying the knots, making the nets. I mean, for example, today we're going to make a purse net, and a purse net in the West Country usually starts with, I think, about 10 loops. Then it expands to 15 loops, and then it can expand even more across if you require it. And the whole idea of that was that instead of doing, if you wanted one that was 20 loops wide, instead of doing 20 loops on the ring here, they would start up with a fewer number because it's saved on material. And basically, if you're using this at a purse net, it's the middle that actually goes over a rabbit's hole. I don't know how it works exactly. I mean, if you have a look online, look up using a purse net and you will see them actually in use. But you can see that it's the centre of the net and not this part that we're creating here that will actually stop the rabbit and tangle him up. Okay, so now that we've done that, I am sure this is going to annoy a lot of left-handers, but I'm right-handed and the instructions I believe are for right-handed, but left-handed, right-handed, I don't know if it makes a difference. You can tell me, but I've now turned my work over. Okay, so I've turned my work over, and the next thing that I've got to do now is I've got to bring into play my netting gauge, netting card. It's got another name as well, but I can't remember it. Okay, so I will just go and get that and then come back to you. So there we have it. There is my netting card, gauge, net gauge, whatever you want to call it. Piece of aluminium. Okay, it's basically whatever size this is determines the size of the actual mesh that you're going to make. So if you want a finer mesh, you have a smaller card. If you want a bigger mesh, you use a bigger card. And that's all it is. It's just a piece of aluminium cut to size, which actually came as part of the kit for my net making. So let's get on and use it. And so the first thing that we do is, let's just get that in the center there. The first thing we do is we bring the netting card, hold it in our left hand like so, and we take that left hand lead and we take it over the top of the card like so, and then with our netting needle, so let me show you this, with our netting needle we now go up through that loop, but we've got to make sure that the tail end here goes behind the back of the card. And so we go behind the back of the card like so, pull it all through like so, and then just gently pull up the tension on it, get it so it's nice, so that we've got it nice and tight in there and it's at the right size. And now we hold it with our thumb and just lock that in place. So we're bringing that, let's show you this, we're bringing that loop tight up against the card there, holding it here with our thumb. Our lead is going across here to our netting needle, and the next thing we do is I pass the cord over my hand like so, so the cord is going up over my hand and then around to the netting needle. And the next thing I do is go behind the loop we've just gone through. We go behind both parts of the loop, up through like so, and then as you can see we're just creating a knot in it like so. And once again you'll find that if you do this with the thinner cord, it's a lot easier than with paracord. But with paracord you can actually see what I'm doing. And so what we've done now is we've created our first loop. We've done our first loop, the knot's at the top there, holding it on there, and now what we're going to do is we're going to pass the cord around the back of our card like so, and then Just make sure there's no twists in the loop above it, so that it's got to be nice and clear, nice clear hole to go through. Take your needle up through it like so, and just gently pull up all the slack. Pull up all the slack, and you can see now here, let's bring that, that's it. You can see now here, I've got it hard against my gauge here, my piece of aluminium, and the next thing I'm going to do is put the cord over my hand like so, and then I'm going to go behind both bits of the loop like so, bring my netting needle through, bring it through like that, and you can see here there's a knot starting to appear, and then just gently pull it down and help the knot go into place. And there we go, we've now done our second one on the second row. And it's exactly the same again. We basically, all we do is go around the back of the card, pick up the next loop like so, pick it up like so, and then pull it up tight so that it's the same length as all the rest. Pull it up so it comes up to the card like so, and then the next thing I do is I'm just taking a bit more off my needle here, my netting needle, and put it over the back of my hand like so, and then go round the two loops, so 1, 2, round the back of those, up through there like so, and then as you can see another knot is starting to appear at that point. And so what I'll do is I will just tie that off, bring it up nice and tight, tie it off, and then we have our next loop into play there. Okay, and so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go on and finish those, and when I get to that end I'll come back to you. I've now finally come to my last one, and once again is exactly the same procedure. We basically take the cordage over the front, around the back of the board like so, pick up that final loop, make sure there's no twists in it, pick it up, bring my netting needle through like so, bring it up tight to my board there, and then the next thing is just get a bit more off my needle like so. Whoop, one more. Take it round the back of my hand like so, then go round the back of both bits of the loop that we just passed through, bring it up round, and then just gently pull up until the knot forms, and then pull that knot up tight at that point. And there we go. If I take the needle out now, you can see here now we're starting to get our net shape. And so the next thing we would do is we would turn it over and we'll go round again. So what I will do is I will go round until I start running out of cord, and then I'll quickly show you what to do when you run out of cordage. Okay, so I'll just do this next row. In fact, let's start this next row together. So if I put that in the middle there, take my card up there like so, and the first thing I do is bring that piece over the front of my card, go up round, pick up the first loop like so, bring it round to the front, that's it, pull out all the slack like so. Let's see, that's in place there. And now that I've pulled out all the slack, the next thing I do is, no, it's a bit more. Okay, so now the next thing I do is go over my hand like so, and then once I've gone over my hand, I then take it round back of both parts of the loop there, round the back of both parts of the loops, and bring it up through like so. And then just gently pull it all up. Let's just pull it all up. Like so. There we go. And then we've got a knot in there. Okay, and so that's our first knot done. Just pull it up. And then what we do is we would then do exactly the same and go on to the next one there. So what I'll do is I'll continue until I get into a problem, and then I'll show you what that problem is. I know what it's going to be. So you can see now here what I've done is I've come to the end of my row, and now I'm running out of our netting cord as such. Now the thing is, with regards to this, some people, when they actually create their nets, they have them in different colours so that you can actually, one is recognise them in the field as to whose net belongs to whom, and also the other thing is just it makes it a little bit more decorative. But I've only got green here at the moment, but basically what I would do is, now that I've run out of cordage here, I would now tie a knot and add some more cordage to it. So I've got a bit more green here, and here it is, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just put a knot in here and add some more cordage on this. So first thing I'm going to do is take the end of my new lead, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie a double fisherman's knot on this. It's just a nice little knot that joins it together. You can choose other knots, you know, whatever suits you best. I personally like the double, when I'm doing the small netting stuff, that is. It might look a bit too big and chunky here, but let's see what it looks like, and somebody can actually, who's watching this video, tell me what I'm doing wrong, if it shouldn't be a double fisherman's. But I personally, that's what I use when I use the smaller stuff. It's just a very, very secure knot. And to tie that, all we do is we take our lead, we go round itself. So we're going round itself over there once, twice, and then what we're going to do is then feed it back up. And I do have a separate video on this particular knot if you want to watch it, and I'll put that at the end of the link here. So in here I'm tying one. There we go, there's one knot. Bring that up. And now the beauty of this knot is, first of all, I can slide it into the position where I want. But what I now do is, on the top end here, I tie another knot. So I'm going to bring that up fairly close there because I don't want it to get in the way of my line. And so the next thing I'm going to do is just tie another one here. And so basically, this is the standing end, this is the working end. I'm bringing it underneath both my bits of work here, and then just form a loop like so. Form another loop like so, and then bring it up through the middle. Whoops, up through the middle like so, and then we should have a double fisherman's bend on there as well. Pull it up nice and tight. There we go. And now, as I pull on both those two will lock together at that point. And so we've now locked those two knots in there. Just pull it up tight, and the next thing to do is just cut off those loose ends. So cut off those two loose ends there, melt it a little bit, and we can carry on and go. So I will just find my board. Where's my board? There's my board. Let's cut the ends off. So cut end off one. Make sure I'm cutting the right one. Yeah, that's the other one. Cut the next one off. Like so. Now that I've done that, get those out of the way. Melt the ends. I could have bought it more flush, but hey, this one's not decoration, this one's for fishing. Okay, so we can catch ourselves a huge whale here. And so now, as you can see here, I've now joined another length onto here. So the next thing is I need to attach all this to my netting needle. Then I'm turning it over and starting another row. But when we start this row, I'll show you another little thing that we can do. Right, so here we have it. There is our join, and what we're going to do now is exactly the same again. Bring the card into play, and we place it over the card like so. Go up, pick up the first loop, pull the netting needle through. Whoop. Oh, I haven't got it round the back of my card there. Round the back of the card like so, and then just pull it up tight, and then just make sure it's nice and tight. Take it through the same procedure as before. So we're now going to lock that off. So take it round the back of my hand like so, underneath both bits of the loop there, round and through, and pull it up. And just make it all nice and square and tight. Okay, and so there is our first bit of mesh for that next row, and we then go up there and we can now continue along there. So what I'll do is I'll continue along there a bit, and when we get to the end I will show you how to put an extra loop in to actually make the net wider. So I will go ahead and do that, and I'll come back to you in a second. Right, so as you can see is I've come to the end of that row. Oh, I've got a loose one there, just tighten that up a bit, pull that tight, get the slack out of it. There you go. And then I'm at this point here, I'm on my last loop. And now what I do here is, if I want to add another loop, I do exactly the same as before. I basically go around the back of the card, up through the loop like so. So take it up through the loop. Alright, up through the loop like this. And then, once again, lock it off, go over. Just get a bit more off my needle. Go over the back of my hand like so, round the back of that loop that we've just gone through, and bring my needle up through, and then lock it off. Just lock it off like so. And now if we want to create another loop, all we do is go round again on the same loop. So we've gone round the board again, round there on the same loop, and we go, hang on, what was, yeah, pick up the, yeah, we go, sorry, I got confused then. So we go round the back of the board then, up through the loop again that we've got there. So we've created another loop, and then we lock that one off as well. And the only downside is, being paracord, you end up with a bit of a chunky knot there, but that's the way it goes. And then what we do is, that's over my hand there, round the back of the loop, bring it up through that big loop there, and once again just bring it down like so and lock it off. So take all the slack out of it and lock it off, and we've now gained ourselves an extra loop at that point. Okay, and so there we have it. We have one extra loop at the end there, and then we can now, so we started here with, let's see, at the bottom we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we've actually increased that now by 7. So there we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now we've got another loop here, and if we want to, we can put 2 on that loop to expand it again. Or if we want to actually take it away, so we go back, we want to shrink it again, we bring 2 loops together like so, and then tie our knot around those 2 loops. Okay, so you can see here now we've got quite a net starting to appear, and so depending on how long you want it to be is how far you go. And just check your knots again, make sure they're all tight. Paracord is quite slippery and probably not the best to use, but it was the only way that I could actually demonstrate it. So just go back, tighten up all your knots like so, and then it should look all nice and tidy. And then we're getting a nice net. And so basically we could, if we wanted to, turn this into a toy hammock. Kids love them. If you make one of these and hang it on the wall, kids can throw their stuffed toys in there and they can instantly see where all their stuffed toys are. And there's no reason why, say for example, you couldn't, providing you've got a hefty enough ring, make yourself your own hammock to lie outside in. You know, so yeah, it's just a wonderful thing. So the next thing I'm going to do is now, what I'll do is I'll show you how to, let's make out that we've made a massive huge hammock, and we now want to finish it off on the next ring. Okay, so we'll go on to that stage next. Okay, so see you on the other side. Right, so what I've done is I have taken off, sorry, I'm just tightening the knot up here, it's come undone a bit. Okay, what I've done is I've taken the ring off that end there. Simply the fact is I've only got one ring. If you're doing this, you will have 2 rings, or like I've done here, you can make yourself a ring using some other paracord that you've got left lying around. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to move this up here, and then now what I'm going to show you, obviously, oh, hang on, obviously, now at the moment, it's not very long, okay? It's not very long. When you've got a normal one, it's a lot longer than this. And let's have a look and see what it says here. It's about, oh, it doesn't say, 21 rows makes a meter of net. So it's about 3 feet for 21 rows, okay? So basically this is a small one. If you were making this, say for example, as a toy storage or something like that, you would just keep putting rows on at this here and adding it on. But I'm just going to show you now how to finish off, and finishing off is easy. Oh, and here we go. I've taken the clip out of, or the locking nut from the bull ring here, and can you imagine that going through the nose of a bull? Nothing to do with fishing or anything, but can you imagine that? So what I'm going to do is just put that together, and once again, if anybody has ever put one through a bull's nose, tell me what the experience was like. Did the bull bite back? Okay, right. So here we go. We're on our last leg now, and what I'm going to do is load up my needle and show you how to do the next bit. And whilst I'm doing my needle up here, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, please give me a thumbs down and tell me why. That's the main thing, is if you like something or don't like something, write a comment, tell me about it. And especially for those of you who've dealt with bulls and put the rings in their noses, leave a comment about that, because I'd be very interested, and so would other viewers be, to read that. Okay, so I've loaded up my netting needle again, and to actually finish off the work is very easy again. All you basically do is, we are going down through the eye of our ring, catch the first loop here of our net, and then just bring in all the excess through, and then so that it ends up flush there like that. And then what we're doing is, once again, we're going to lock it in place and basically throw the cord over our hand, round the back of both here like so, bring it up through the loop that was on the back of our hand, and then just pull it down until it all comes into play. Now you're going to have to coax this in a little bit. Just coax it in so that the actual loop that you've gone through is tight. Just bring it in, and then there we go. So we've got our first one there, is tightened on. Just let me sort that knot out a bit. And so that is the first one there, and that's flush with that loop. So the next thing we do is we go down through our ring again, pick up the next one, like so, pick it up, and then bring it up so that it comes down flush with there, over the back of our hand like so. Just let me get a bit more out of my netting needle, and then round the back of the loop we've just picked up, bring it up through like so, and then we will now get another knot at that point there. Okay, and so pull that up tight, just grab it, tease it through, because we want it tight against the ring, as tight as we can, because we don't want any slack in there. So bring that through, like so, and there we have it. We've got another one locked in place. So just pull that up tight, and there's another one on our ring there. And once again, what we do is we just go through our ring again, through our, let's just bring that round, through our ring like so, bring it up through the next loop on the way, bring it up so it's tight against the ring, round the back of our loop. Whoops, sorry, forgot to put it over my hand. Round the back of the loop, bring it through. You don't have to forget things sometimes when you're filming. And then bring it down so that it comes then, so it locks it in against that loop again. And just bring it through. And you know, once again, I keep repeating this, you will find this is so much easier when you do it with the smaller cord, thinner cord. It just seems to work a lot better. Just pull that through, lock that in place. Oh, there we go, and there's another one locked in place. And you can see here now, gradually we are locking those up against there. And that's all we do. We keep going round like that, picking up each loop. So let's do this one. That will all be on one ring, like so. And then we now have a smally little hammock to rest on the end. So I put my knife in there. Well, it falls out, but you know what I mean. Okay, and there we go. We have a little hammock made there. But you would probably make a larger one for the kids' toys. And you can see here, the difference here. It's incredible, the difference. Here is one that I've made from the proper netting twine, as such, and you can just see the knots in here, but when you tie a knot in this stuff, you just feel it through your fingers. You don't really see it because it's so thin. And you can see here where it's used two different colours. It's joined at the ends here, and it changes colour there. We've gone to red there, gone to green again there, done a row of green, row of red, and a couple of rows of green again. That's all we've done there. And then this one is done with natural twine as such, and you can see where it's slightly thicker, you can actually, the knots are a little bit clearer. But once again, done in exactly the same way. And this one is approximately 4 foot long, approximately. How long's this one? This one here is about the same, about 4 foot long. Okay, so that is basically how you do knotting. It doesn't, well, I'm sure on a larger scale, if I were to extend this into a larger scale, this would start to look a little bit better. I just find the knots are so pronounced on this. I'm not used to it, and I'm not sure if I like it, but certainly it's one way of making a net using paracord. So it certainly can be done. You just need to take a little bit care, as when we're using this stuff. In this stuff, if you make a little mistake or something like that, the knots are so tiny, you just can't see that mistake. So with this one, you just need to take a little bit of extra care and go round and just knot it up. Okay, so that's basically all to do with my netting project today. So if you like this video, please thumbs up, thumbs down, but leave a comment and tell me why thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay, and if you think someone else might benefit from it, please share it. So anyway, I'll catch you again in the near future. Bye bye.